Okay, so my name is Dmitri Levin. I work as database manager for several databases. I started with Progress like way long ago. And then eventually I was asked to work with Oracle database like 15 years ago probably, so I have quite experience with Oracle. But recently I was tasked with SQL and then MySQL, and we even have MongoDB today. So we kind of manage many databases. And I have more SQL Server database. I have like 250 SQL Server databases in store, which is way more than Progress and Oracle and all of them together. So I spend most of my time not with Progress anymore, but I still love Progress. Replication set like with many
two targets.
No, I will not cover it. I have never used it myself, and yes, I had from consulting company that provides software said that it's not working very well. I don't know, maybe it was in the past, but I will not cover the sets. You're welcome. So, and I will have a demo in the middle of my presentation which will show both TDE and replication. So when we talk about replication, I usually mean these three types: after image replication and OpenEdge replication, which is the main thing. And also a little bit, I'll talk very little about Pro2 replication because we're not using it anymore, but I have some experience with that as well. So I included TDE in this is my speech because it's kind of related to replication because both used to preserve your data. And I don't, there is a wonderful Rob Fitzpatrick presentation about the TDE. He covers a lot of stuff. I don't want to step on his foot. I'll just mention a very specific part of TDE. Basically, TDE consists of enabling replication, enabling TDE, and then encrypting your tables, certain tables. And I will just talk about the first part. And then why do you want to enable TDE, even if you don't want to encrypt your table, if you don't have to encrypt your table? Why do you want to do that? And imagine that you have a house, like a wonderful house, and you probably would like to lock it, just to be safe, to feel more comfortable. And the same thing is with your database. If you care about your database, you will feel much more, safe if you lock your database. And that's exactly what happens if you enable TDE. You will receive a key, which looks something like that, dbname.keystore. And this key will make you happy, in a way that you will know that nobody will use your data while you are not aware of. And nothing, just that. So there are two things necessary to do a TDE. One is you need to have another area, and you need to have KS file, basically. And I will show you in presentation. But before you implement TDE, you need to be aware that there is a small t parameter. And if you use this parameter, it basically allows you to see the DBI files, SRT files. This parameter is not compatible with TDE. So before you implement TDE, you need to make sure that all the connections to your database doesn't have this small t. You have to take it out and prepare. Okay, when you create encryption policy and enable TDE, you need to do this to the all related databases. For example, if you have replication, you do it for the target. If you have after image replication, then you do it with your database that you replicate the after image logs. Also, if you refresh development or test or training or any database, you should put the key and make area for TDE for them as well. And one concern that people have, at least my boss, who doesn't know anything about Progress, is what happens if you lose the key. Well, it's like losing key for the house, But imagine that you live in a house and you have keys for your children, for your friends, and everybody has a key. So the probability of losing the key, then it's not a big deal because you can borrow from it. Same thing happens here. Since you will have a key also on your target database and in development and in test and maybe in training, it is like everywhere. So you will not lose your current key because it is everywhere. The only possibility is that if you change the key, and you obviously change it everywhere, then the backup that was made months and years ago will not be restored without the old key. So you definitely want to upload your keys in some one password, like we use one password, or you can use LastPass, whatever tool you use. You can even put on your flash drive, So you need to preserve the key because there is no backdoor. You could not use backdoor. If you lose the key and you have a backup that doesn't match the key, it's not good anymore. That's basically the purpose of the key. But you will not use the current key. And for example, if after image replication doesn't have KS file, I tried it. Then as soon as you roll forward, you receive the core and protrace files. So just make sure you, when you do a new key, you place it everywhere. And that's happened when you restore the database without key store. You will have that error with the sports database. There are several features, I call it features and issues, whatever you call it, when you have a TDE-enabled database. The first one is you do a schema differential, like you want to compare development and production, and if one of the database has enabled TDE and another doesn't, then you'll get some warning. But it still works fine. That's not a problem. It's also written to this file. Second issue, how you can blow your after image space, and that happened to me. By default, when you enable TDE without any options, if the database is running online, it is enabling TDE for after images, basically encrypting after images, but not the before images. If you do it offline, which probably you don't do because you need your database running, then it will do both. But at least after images will be enabled. And then what happens? This is a sports database, one without TDE and one with TDE. And I ran a transaction, like updated like a couple thousand of records. And here is my after image file. You can see that they're practically the same, slightly different, not encrypted and encrypted. But then if you do zip, if you try to zip this file, you will see that not encrypted file zips very good. But this file doesn't zip very good. It's almost the same size. So what happens to me, I just enable TDE, after images I encrypted, and then I start seeing my space in, where after images reside shrinking very fast. So make sure you either add a space, or if you don't want to, you can use this option, disable AI encryption. So if you do that, then after images will not be encrypted. And that's what I use. I basically redid the whole, and you could not disable encryption just for BI or just for AI. You need to wipe, like disable TDE again, and then enable it with this option. So that's one feature you should be aware of. Okay, and yes, expect that grows considerably for the zipped. And that makes sense, because this is a binary file, that's why it's not zips very good. I just didn't expect it. Another issue is that if you want to scan after image file, and I do scan it very often if I need to find an issue, you couldn't just take a sports database, you know, and you could it if you don't use TDE, but if you use sports with your real after image file, it won't work. It will basically give you this error. So if you want to scan the file, you basically take a real, after image replicated, or you can make a backup, restore it. So basically you need to use a real database to scan AI file. So maybe it's a security feature. Just make sure you're aware of that. Okay, and yeah, you also you can copy the database using procopy without truncate BI, but with encrypted database that won't work. With encrypted database, see, it will give you an error. So before you use procopy, you need truncate BI first. That's a little feature that you should be aware of. And that's probably all that I will say about TDE. Yes, good place for questions.
Using TDE for one database, so let's say, instead of saving your key store, you have to save your key passes, also pass passes.
Yes.
If you have your key store, but you're not saving your passphrase, that is not usable at all. So needs think and needs plan. Saving key backup, saving your key store,
and
the same backup and passphrase. And just remember that we have two passphrases. One is for one actions you need admin passphrase, for other actions not to have that. So two passphrases in addition. And no, just the question maybe to audience. Is it about rekeying when you're restoring that database for test and development purposes? Is it fine to use the same key store, or the database needs to be rekeyed?
I use the same.
Okay, you can use the same, but usually test and development environments, those environments are not so safe as production environment. If you start, as you said, sharing that key store to all your kids, friends, developers, and testers, even more developers, then possibly that's
different house
will be kind of meaningless usage, because anyone will have that key store.
Yeah, within organization,
Yes,
within the family.
You have, for example, 200 developers in the organization, that it can be a problem. Not just some faults.
You could rekey it, but you'd want to automate that if you have any number of encrypted objects. Like if you're encrypting every table, then it's not going to be feasible to do that manually. You're going to need to write a process that iterates over all of your encrypted objects
So I just,
and then rekeys them.
Just
Once you
about
refresh.
such related problematic related to TDE is that as talking as from that presentation looks that it is it's useful, but it is not so easy to use in large organization, for example. No, it causes a lot of organizational activities related to that key. Even from that you said about compressing, that those are not compressed. From that moment when we enabled that TDE, our net backup admins told us to start to claim, because the duplication on net backup is what works in support for those backups. Compression, not forks. And this is, you already may have, we paid a lot of money for that to have those features, but those don't. But that occurs with any encryption.
Right.
You encrypting the file system, the same exists. So exists some kind of side effects.
But that's not an OpenEdge problem, that's just a computer science problem.
Yes, yes. So yeah, basically, of course, the idea is that someone from completely outside having a backup will not be able to restore the database without a key. So it's like a step more complicated. Of course, it's not a full solution. Yes.
Sorry, does the key store change when you migrate from 11.7 to 12? Or does it keep the same? Will it hold the same key store?
I don't know the answer. So basically, when you do update your progress version, I don't know, I've never tried it. Okay, let's talk about replication now. And I will show TDE a moment later in a demo. So after image replication was like from version 5 in the late 80s. And it's basically all simple boils down to rolling forward you know. And by the way, in other languages, in Oracle and Microsoft, they call it log replication. So if you talk to someone outside of progs, just say log replication. They will understand. The nice feature that came later is to retry applying, after image, and that's a very nice feature. If something happened in the middle, you can just retry it, and it will take it from the moment it was stopped. So I use it a lot if something happens. And yet another feature, which I believe started in version 10.1c, is the option to lock your database. And that's also a very nice feature, because if someone accidentally will start your database that is being replicated during, between the logs, your database will be no good anymore. So this is kind of prevention feature, and I use it with, every time. So basically, every time I'll roll forward my extent, and I use this one. And if you use it first time, it will lock your database. If you use the second time, it will just ignore it. So, just use it all the time. And what will happen basically if you try, it will say this one. So if you try to use your database with oplock, you couldn't do it, because access to database is not allowed. And if you try pro session, just pro, it will also give you this error. And if you try to start the server, pro serve, it will also give you. So basically, your database is locked at this point. If you want to use this database, you use unlock. So you use this option, and it will ask you, are you sure? And then you unlock your database and you can use it. So that's a very good feature. This is a little bit of history of OpenEdge replication. So first it was called Fathom replication back then in the days. And then, it was called Fathom replication for quite a while, until it was rebranded with OpenEdge replication since 10.1a. And it used to be a separate product that you buy. Now it is part of Progress. So whenever you install Progress, replication is already there. So it's not an option, add-on product anymore. So when you start replication, you will notice that you will get this file, REPL recovery. And this file started there since 10.1a, and it is used for syncing between the source and the target. And also starting with recently with 11.7, there is a blob inside the DB file. And this blob inside the DB uses the same purpose basically. It's for making sure, works consistently between source and target. So this blob has many names. If you look for documentation, it's called replication block, control block, recovery control, build DB block. I guess different people call it differently, but it is inside the DB file. Actually, DB file could have many blobs. I believe it's probably a bug, but only one of these blobs will be usable. So the progress will use only one blob, even if you have many of them inside the DB file. Both are used for synchronization between RPLS as a replication server that runs on source and a replication agent that runs on a target. But how synchronization works, I really don't know. Progress doesn't publish it. So there is the address of this block. The address of this block is in the master block of the database. So you can get there. So when the question from the gentleman here, when there are two replication targets, which we call a set, then you will have one RPLS process and two RPLA processes, and it becomes way more complicated. And from what I heard, it doesn't work very well. I implemented many times replication, but I never implemented with two targets. So that is a kind of comparison between the REPL recovery file and control block. And from here you can see that they are pretty much similar. And again, we are guessing what is inside. The last byte that is used here is 600. So basically the first part of this file is for the source database. This is the first 600 bytes. And the last 600 bytes are for the target database, I guess. And similar for the blob. Though the size of the blob was much bigger, I don't think the whole size is used. If you remove REPL recovery file, what will happen? Well, you can still use proserve, and RPLS process will recreate this REPL recovery file, but replication will be broken. So I recommend you not to delete REPL recovery file. It is useful, it's made for certain purpose, and don't delete it, because you have to rebuild the replication pretty much. Okay, what happens if someone removes .db file? Obviously, you can rebuild build.db file with either prostruct repair or prostruct build.db, but it will be created without this block, because this utility prostruct has no aware about this blob. However, RPLS will recreate this blob, and replication most likely will work. But still don't delete the B file, obviously. Okay. These are some messages that are associated with this blob, which you can see. Like some of these messages are for server, and some of these messages are for the agent. I just listed what messages could you see which are mentioning this blob. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about Pro2 replication. Basically, it came from Breakpoint, and it was called Pro Dump and Load originally. So Dan Forman created this tool, but later it became Progress product, and it has 3 flavors: Pro2 Pro, Pro2 SQL, and Pro2 Aura. Obviously, this is used for SQL Server, this is for Oracle, and that you may use to replicate Progress to Progress. And you can use it for dump and load, by the way, this flavor. I had this option because our company was replicating database part of the database to the SQL. And in version 5, Pro2 introduced CDC, and in version 6, it is based now on a browser instead of GUI client, and it also has background jobs. And I'll show you a couple pictures. That's how Pro2 looks in version 6. You can see the threads. There are like zillion threads here. And you can see the, processes here, the number of threads. And finally, that's when you map the tables here. Okay, so a couple words not related to Progress, but basically, since I'm working with Oracle, I know that the same exists with Oracle. So it's called redo log shipment for the after images, Oracle Data Guard, which I use, by the way, in my company. And this is Active Data Guard. It's very similar to Replication Plus. And by the way, this is free tool. This requires a license. So I believe same with Progress. This is free tool. This requires a license. All the same. And also Oracle has Golden Gate, which replicates Oracle to other databases, including Progress. And it is something similar to Pro2 replication. Is it possible to update the target database? Well, with Progress it's probably not, but Oracle has a product called DML Redirect, and that does exactly that. It basically allows you to update the target database. But what Oracle is doing behind the scenes, it sends all the data from the target to the source, applies it over there, and then it, through the normal channel, it comes to the target database. So there's no magic wand, even for Oracle. Okay, in that slide, I want to have a comparison of 3 types of replication. And as you can see that for after image and for OE replication, you can only replicate the whole database, while obviously for Pro2, you can do table by table. And here is why. The unit of replication here is after image block, where here you replicate basically record by record, so you know which table you are replicating. So let's look at after image block. After image block has nodes. And these recovery nodes, they correspond either to a certain block, a record block, or certain index block. And these recovery nodes don't have an object number. So if you look at a recovery node, you would not have the slightest idea which table it belongs to. So you couldn't use after image block for replication and separate one table from another table. That's why the minimum is the whole database for these types of replication, unlike this one. Yeah, and also, obviously, you use this to replicate to other database, not just Progress to Progress. This is very fast replication. Pro2 is a kind of slower because it's going record by record, so it has to be slower. That's why I showed you 22 threads in the previous slide of Pro2. Also, this replication is instant, meaning immediately, and this replication is not instant because you're applying logs. And actually, in some cases, that could be beneficial. Of course, not for the protection from the hardware failure, but in some cases. Also, you need a license for that. Well, if you use Replication Plus, this is not licensed at all. And implementing this is very easy, and this you probably maybe need a help. And this is possibility of delay replication, which is very helpful. So this screen shows you the VST that you can use to monitor replication, and the first one is for the server. So let's just have one record, so you can do REPL server, and it will look something like that. So you can see that replication has a normal processing, and usually you need to check the processing only on one side. If it is normal on the source, it will be normal on the target, and vice versa. You don't have to check on both sides. And it shows, obviously, it's a source database and everything else. So this is a replication agent. So replication agent tells you everything about the REPL agent, and it will look something like that. It will tell you how it is set up, but it will not show you the status of how this agent works, because for that you need a different VST, and it's called agent activity. So if you look at agent activity, which has the following fields, you can see that it also has a normal processing, it doesn't wait for anything, and it's pretty much current. Whenever I made this slide, it was current. How to disable replication. If you like to disable replication, you will find two different commands, which is a little bit confusing which one you use. And a rule of thumb is very simple. If the database is running online, then you use dsrutil. If the database is not running, then you use proutil. So that's pretty easy. And this is also helpful to use a recovery. Obviously, you need database running for that. It will show you when the replication was created, like the date. In this case, my replication was created July 20, and also tell the status, last byte written, and here last transaction end. And this should be current. So when I ran this test, it was exactly 5:02. And if your database in synchronization mode, then you can monitor how far behind is this database by using this recovery option. As I mentioned before, you can use after-image replication for delaying. And I do this because besides the physical corruption, there is also a logical corruption when someone does something which not supposed to happen. And then obviously replication will carry it immediately everywhere. So for that person, both corruption could be fixed with delayed replication. So I have after-image replication on my primary server that is applying the logs 10 hours later. So I have kind of frame of 10 hours to do something, figure out something. And there were one case at least when someone deleted something, and we were able to go to the database, which is 10 hours behind, and find at least the row ID of the record that was deleted, and by that we can bring it back. And we were able actually to dig into after images using the scan after imaging and tying it to specific user, finding the transaction where he did this, and basically when pointing it, though he said he never did it. Okay, I believe now it's time for demo. So I'll shut it down, and I have a quick demo. Okay, this is my chit chat. So I'll create sports database. First, you see I don't have any sports database here. Okay, sports database is created. Fortunately, I'm not working with Oracle. It would take like 40 minutes. Okay. Next thing, I will preserve my database. Okay, that's good. And I will run. I have another session where I will just run looping the records just to make sure that this is just looping, so showing that it runs online without any interruptions. So let's enable site replication. Oh, replication couldn't be enabled because after imaging is not enabled. Okay. I need to shut down the database, obviously, and make after images first. Huh? In order to enable, I need to have after images. But I created the database from scratch, and the after image is not enabled. Hmm? Yeah, I could have enabled them online. That's correct. I could have enabled them online. That's true. Yes. Add-on, yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So now it's enabled, right? So I'll start the database again. Okay, and okay, what I will do now, I will start the session just to make sure that my session will be uninterrupted when I do the okay, so it's running. Okay. So let me now enable replication. Okay. So replication is enabled for the source database. So the next step, I'll make a backup. Backup is done because it's sports database. Let's try FTP it. I have a script that will FTP the database, and let me see. Now this is a different server. This is server was called CorpDev, and where this session is still running, you can see. And this is a different server, Cliff. Let's see if my backup is finished here. Yeah, September 18. Of course, it's 10 o'clock because it's in Pennsylvania time. Okay, so now I will restore the database on my target server. And I do enable replication on a target. And now it's enabled. And then I preserve the target database. And finally, I need to do restart the server on a source. Okay, and that's it. That's basically all the steps you need to go to enable replication. This process is still happy browsing the customers. Okay, so now let's do update on a source. So, okay. PUG event. You see, you don't see it, right? Let's do it again. Now you see it. So it takes some time to replicate. It's like maybe split of the second, but you can see that this is a target database. The updates went through the target database. Okay, what else I'm doing? Okay. Yeah, you can also check the status of replication. And you can do it on the source, normal processing. You can do it on the target, normal processing. There is no difference, except the message. The message will be different on the target and on the source. If you do describe the database, it will tell you which database is it. This is a source database, and this is a target database. So you can easily see which database is source or target. And also a good thing to monitor. You can run a monitor either on a source, and then the option is S, but there's not much interesting here on a source. Pretty much more interesting in a target. If you have a big database, not like a sports database, but a real database, like for example, my database is almost 2 terabytes, it will take quite some time to send the backup and start replication. When you start replication, it will go to synchronization mode. And in this case, the target database, which I highlighted here, will be out of sync with production for quite some time. Like in my case, it was like 3 hours. It took 3 hours for the target database to catch up with the source. So going to the monitor, to the second screen, you can see how far your target is behind, how far it is catching up with the source. So that was very interesting. Maybe I'll show you screens later. Okay, so we have source and target. Okay, I need to change one parameter. Okay, I will change it. Now what I want to do, I want to change the roles of the databases. I need uncomment because the source database need this parameter that I uncommented. Okay, so I will run one thing, and on a remember, you will run it on a source database, right? So this is our source database, and let's change the roles now. It usually takes like a minute, maybe 2 minutes, even with sports database. Let me look at the time.
What about your running code? What about your running code? As this is 724.
Yeah. And the database will be down. I believe you can configure that the database will go up after the changing of the roles. I didn't do that. I basically set it up to manual startup. But at the end of this process, they will change the roles. And my source database that was a source here will become a target. Okay, that's done. And when you start, I believe you need to start the target first, which is my previously source. And then I need to start the source database. Okay, so let's look at this database on Corp Dev that used to be the source just a moment ago. See, it was a source database. If I run describe, now it's a target database. And obviously the other one will be the source. The database that on the cliff will become a source database now. I can obviously do update again, and I can delete this PUG event thing. And then I do here, say it's PUG event is gone. So, data flowing the other way now. Okay. What else I need to do? Okay. So let's let's change the roles again. Now from this database, I'll change the role, I'll send them back and make this database target and the other database source. And while I'm waiting for this, I'll open another session Yeah, and of course, when I was doing all of this, my user who was running happily died, obviously. He was okay for the setup replication, but he's not okay for switching roles. I need one session with Putty because TDE doesn't work very good with the, it doesn't work with the emulator that I'm using, the green one. I don't know why. I talked to Progress Software and they said, okay, but it works in a party. Okay, let's see how my thing is working. Well, that's working. You have any questions so far while we're switching the roles of the databases? I just want to show that it's easy. By the way, what you can do with that, if you have a production system that you need to bring down for your like maintenance, whatever, you can switch the roles, the database, so your target database now becomes a source. You can run on your disaster recovery for a while, shut down your production database, make your maintenance, and then switch the roles back. Hmm? Clients? Yeah, when we switch the roles, yes, they die. That's true. Okay, now I will use prostruct add online. I have encryption file here where I can show you. So I created a structure file which I will add to my sports database. Oops. I should type better. So this is my sports database. Obviously, it doesn't have any encryption. So I will add online oh, okay. There's no server. That's good. That means I didn't do something. So I'll start the target. Yes, of course I need to do that. And I will start the source, which I haven't done that. Okay, so describe. Now this is my source database. Very good. So I will add online this one. And by the way, I should probably do that on a target first. Yes. That is much better. And actually, I believe this adding a new area online enable, I think it should be on the target first. So it helps. Okay, let's do me on the target first. Yes. And then I will do on the source. Okay, so if I look in the sports, we have, I need obviously to do prostruct list. I do prostruct list, I have encryption area. So one thing is done. Okay, then the next thing I need to enable encryption. And that, as I said, it won't work on this power term, so I'll use this one. Okay. And the phrase is optional, you know, the last one, the keystore phrase, that's an optional, so I'll leave it. So encryption was successfully enabled. Very good. So you can see here that I probably have a KS file created just a moment ago. And I need to FTP KS file. So basically what I will do, I will FTP KS file because the KS file doesn't exist here on my target. I will FTP it. So now case file exists. Very good. So if I run describe on my source database, it will show you that it is encryption. See? And probably on the target it will say the same. Yep. Before the before I FTP the case file, it wouldn't show that it is encryption enabled. Okay, so we do have encryption now. What else? I can disable it. To disable encryption, it's very easy. I just, I can disable. It's very easy, but yeah, I can do that. Okay. Let's move this presentation. I believe that's all that I want to show you with the demo. Well, I can do disable, of course, encryption. This is Rashad here. Yeah, disable encryption works very easy. You just run it, and that's it. It is disabled. See, no encryption. Okay, let's move to the presentation again. Okay. I prepared a couple slides just in case of if presentation doesn't work, which describes, every step, but since it did work, I don't have. So this is basically telling how my properties file looks like, and which responsible for transition, and obviously the server name. Yeah, one more thing. As I said, since my database takes a long time. Yeah. This or previous?
Yes, this one. Is this created yourself, invented out of your mind, or is the structure, where comes from this file?
I just, like how I created this file?
Yeah, out of your mind, you know everything?
No, I just read the documentation, and start using, and like, for example, this is important parameter. It tells you how much your database will wait before it goes to transition. So, I played with this parameter. I believe this is like 3 days. So I have a 3 days for my database not working. Like, for example, if target database is down and the source database will continue to expect it to be up some time. And I believe this is like a limit.
So there's no tool to create this parameters, and it's written with some defaults which are nice.
Yeah, it's written. I don't know, maybe Progress provide you some sample?
Yeah, they do. In the DLC directory, you can pick them up there.
DLC properties.
Yeah, DLC properties, there's a README.
Completely out of your mind.
No, yeah, you can, I don't think I changed a lot, except obviously the names of the agents, obviously the server name. Basically, the difference between source and target is the server name. Yeah. That's obviously different. And I believe this parameter is set up. And time to transition is also in seconds. Okay. One thing I want to mention, which I just learned this year, is that when your after images are locked, and locked meaning that they are waiting to be used for replication. So I copied the database from source to target. It took time to make a backup, to copy the backup to the target, and start the replication. When it goes in syncing, there will be these files will become busy. They become full. So you can copy these files and apply it to after image replication without waiting them to become full. So basically the difference between locked and full matters for OpenEdge replication, but it means nothing for after image replication. That's still full file, which you can apply, not waiting for them to become full. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can roll forward them. Now a couple words about pica parameter. You may not have seen, this is like a main area for replication, and you can think about this like a pool. So the data, the replication data goes in and out, and how do you measure this kind of like by the pipe? I mean this pipe that goes in. You can use a PROMON option, RND 2 and 6, and you can take how much updates per second, how many writes per second after imaging is doing, and in this case it is 57, multiply on your after image block size. So my block size is this one that I use for after images. So approximately this is like 1K. So you can calculate how much traffic goes per second on your database using this, value from the PROMON. And you can also use the following VST to do the same thing, because PROMON VST is the same thing. So you can, and pica is just a buffer for after image messages to be sent from source to target. So there is AAW process that puts the data inside, and there is RPLS process. All of this is on a source. So basically we're talking about source data, source server. So after image is putting data in, RPLS takes them out. Can you calculate the outsides, how fast the RPLS works? Not really, but you can see how many data is in your pool. And again, you can use PROMON for that or VST. And in PROMON 1 and 16, you can have a data which corresponds to your pica. This is exactly the value of your pica. This is what I have used. And this is how many messages are still waiting. In my case, it is 0, which is good. Nothing is waiting. And this is kind of the size of the pool. And this is how much air is between the used and empty. And also, this is a number of blocks that were processed, but the blocks are counted twice because Progress counts them in and counts them out. So half of this value is the number of blocks that came through this pica pool. And if you take the number of message entries from this value and multiply by the size, each message is 112 bytes in size, then you will receive a value which is very close to your pica. Remember, this is kilobytes. So that is 262 megabytes pretty much I use, not a lot for the pica. And you can use the same, you can get the same data if you use this VST. What version 12 brings in is that it has a different process now. Version 11 basically goes like that. It doesn't use AI streaming. In version 12, you can use AI streaming, and this basically alleviates the problem with the pica, because now the changes are stored not on the source, they're stored here on the target. And that is good because if the replication, if something happens, your changes, even if they're not applied to the target database, they're still on a target server already. So, if you lose your primary database, primary server, it will be still applied. So in this way it is better than version 11. This is how you can set up the communication area for the AI streaming. So you're basically enabling AI streaming and setting the size of a streaming cache. And if you don't use the streaming, this is like old-fashioned. You basically, that means streaming is disabled, and then this value doesn't mean anything if after imaging streaming is disabled.
Is this a separate database where it's saved, or is it the same database? You take this RE, streams around, blah, 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 blah.
This is a parameter of
Receives the receiver, replication, where it's going physically.
physically it goes into like the messages. It goes into the memory pool of the target database instead of Pica is on a source database.
Okay, then the target is down. What happens then?
Target is down, then it is accumulated. Sorry.
Source continues working, yeah?
Yes. The source, if the target is down, the source continues to work. It basically, all the changes will be accumulated in your AI. I showed you on the previous screen. Let me go back a little bit. Well, it's probably a lot. When I showed you all here, the screen, that's what happens. If your target database is not working, and this screen I took when I was copying my database, I made a backup, start copying it, so the target was not even created, then your after images are locked. So all the changes are right now, and I switch after images every 15 minutes, so you can see that this is many hours. So 4 locked extents meaning 1 hour. So that is probably like 5-6 hours already here. It was way more than that.
So the file system.
Yes.
You must just be careful because if they're all locked, your backup is going to fail. So you need to make sure you have enough AI files.
Yeah. So sleeping, the target is down and sleeping and sleeping and sleeping.
Yeah.
And then comes the mechanism of deleting old AI files.
No. Okay, so that is about streaming. So that is ignored. And this is the VST that you can see for the details. Okay, so that is how it works with the streaming. Okay, final couple messages that starting version 12, asynchronous commit mode is supported, so that's the only one. So synchronous is no longer available, and nobody was using it anyway. And now in version 12.1, you can check your parameters. There is another name to validate, and that's for your question. You can use it if you have 12.1 or older. You can just validate that your parameters are valid. And finally, in version 12.2, Pica could be changed online, which is also good because that's, when the Pica is filled to 100%, bad things start happening. So basically your source database will receive breaks, which you don't want to have, obviously. So I set Pica big enough, and I never had problems for many, many, many years. So, and it's not a lot that you need to give to Pica to be happy. And about final message about startup parameters. If the startup parameters don't match, not all of them, but some, the most important, like N, MN, MBP. So the progress database will not work. It will basically says source and target do not match, and that message you can receive. The value of N must be greater or equal to the source. So basically what progress is saying that target database has smaller numbers than the source, and it doesn't allow you to run replication. So not to get this message, I make my parameters all the same, especially because the one that is source could become a target next, like I showed you a moment ago. You flip the roles, and which is which, you don't know anymore. So for that reason, and then the server will be ended. That's not a good message. And or the agent. So what I do, I create one common parameter file and I put it on a source and a target, and then I create one source and one target PF, which is referencing my common PF file. So this is common PF file with the same parameters on source and target. And when I start the database, I use either source if it is a source or the target if it is a target. And the source, you can see the pica value. Well, that's the default value. I probably will go much bigger if I use a real database. This is like for sports database. So this is for the source and this is for the target. Port number and REPL target. And everything else is common between the source and the target. Then you don't have a mismatch parameter problem if you use the same parameter file. And now questions? Yes.
I was told that in version 12 it wouldn't be necessary anymore to shut down and put up your database when you're doing a transition. But no one could confirm that to me.
You need to shut down.
Yeah, is that still true in version 12?
I don't know. The demo that I showed you was version 11.
I know that, but my customer wants to have a 24/7 solution.
I would assume if Progress didn't tell you exactly that you can do it online, then you couldn't. I guess.
It goes one slide back to the parameters. What I don't get, why I have to say the database.
Which one?
One forward again. That is, it's replication server and application agent. Does the database not know? But it was started as server and target.
No, it is different. Like if it is a source database, it will have a REPL serve parameter. If it is an agent, it will REPL agent.
You have to tell it every time database that it is the source. If I start. Yeah. It doesn't know it in the control block. I'm the source.
It knows that, but you need to start it with appropriate. You need to tell it at startup time.
Every or one?
For both, for source and for target.
Every time for start?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's not the control block.
If you noticed, I commented this parameter because before I didn't have the database. Remember, I created sports database.
Very fast. I will try it myself.
Yeah, and I had this one commented out. But before I start flipping them, I uncommented.
Okay, when you flip, I can understand. But after it knows. That's what I say.
It knows which one. Yeah.
I will try it. Another question for Replication Plus. I have it still in my toolbox to use it, in my license. I never use it. I want to start it. What can I do with a replication database, except it's a failover? But
Replication Plus.
Yeah, what can I do with a Plus version?
With the Plus version, you can start the server. You can preserve it.
And then?
You can run SQL.
You can. Yes.
SQL, usually our application database has indexes for fitting for the application. When comes the report team, they want to know completely different things. So they want to have other indexes. So the question...
You couldn't have other indexes.
So I can't apply other indexes to the database for better SQL reports.
No. The database is identical. They're exactly identical from the schema, because schema is data.
The only thing that database will be read-only, really read-only, not that you can start with minus RO on server.
Non-unique additional indexes will not destroy anything in the structure.
I think I overstated my time.